And I warn you because our thoughts are not God's thoughts. And you don't have to sin if you use common sense. Now, what does the Bible say about common sense? Well, good morning. The title of this one is Common Sense. Now, I was watching President Trump sign an executive order, and I've never seen that live before. That was pretty neat. And I've been on tour around the White House and the Capitol building and all that. But this was special. And the order was that men that had a sex change operation or pretend they were a woman, could no longer participate in women's sports. Well, and President Trump, and he was standing as I am here, and in the back was 40 or 50 women. And he knew many of them, knew them by name. But as he was getting on with his presentation, he said, "It's only common sense." Common sense. And I have to agree with that. So the next day, I was watching the morning news, and Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, after a meeting with President Trump, he was standing on the porch in the front there, talking to the press, and he said, "Well, it's just common sense." And so I wrote that down too. And later that evening, Nita and I are watching TV, and it was a presentation, Thomas Jefferson, and it was a whole hour. And Thomas Jefferson wrote the first draft of the Declaration of Independence, and was chosen to do so because his writing skills of legal documents. I don't think he was a lawyer, but he was a very good writer. And they thought, this group of people, and it consisted of people like George Washington, Franklin, and others. And it was a Ken Burns story about Jefferson. And he was chosen because he was skilled in writing and he had common sense. Common sense. And I have a yearly calendar. It has comments for every month printed in the margin. And it's to motivate you and to think, good thoughts. In February, there was a quote from this man, Voltaire, and he was a French writer and philosopher, a satirist and historian, and he was famous for his criticism of Christianity. And we're talking about the Catholic Church. He spoke up about the Catholic Church and slavery, and he advocated free speech and free religion. And he said, common sense is not common. Common sense is not common. So I thought, wow, common sense, I got enough here. I think I'll study it and see if I can make something out of it. And it would be, and for me, interesting to plow through the Bible under a topic like that. And that's why I put this thing together. It was like a gift from on high. Now, how would Webster's define common sense? And number one, it's a thing or a noun. Remember, when you were in school, person, place, or thing is a noun. I can remember that. It is sound and prudent judgment based on a simple perception of the situation. So as you and I see a situation, we make a judgment. And it's usually based on facts. And number two, it is knowledge to make a judgment to your taste. And there's the danger. You and I make judgments and do things because of our background and what we know. And I would hope that everyone here and online would base what you know and your judgment on the Bible, information from the Bible. And I warn you, because our thoughts, our thinking, are not God's thoughts. And we've used this before, but Isaiah 55 and 8. Isaiah 55 and 8. Here, God is talking, and he says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are my ways neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord." Why? As for the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. For as the rain comes down and the snow from heaven, and we had that this morning out where I live, and return not hither, but watered the earth. And Nita was happy because the orchard got a little moisture, and make it bring forth fruit, forth and bud, that it may give seed to the sower and bread to the eater. So shall my word be that goeth out of my mouth, and it shall not return to me void. See, common sense. You base it on God's word. But it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I send it. For you shall go out with joy, and be led forth with peace. And the mountains and the hills shall break forth before you into singing, and all the trees of the field shall clap their hands. So everything would be going good. It's like spring here, because we have mountain water, and I'm very happy that we do again this year. It seems like it. So common sense must be based on God's word, not on our taste. So today we will cover common sense in the Bible. Now, instead of going through a group of scriptures and you're not writing them down or you forget them, I do, unless I review, let's look at people who went off and did what they wanted to do. And there's a bunch of them in the Bible. But first, let's read together a warning from God. God cautions Israel against disobedience. That's a headline in my Bible before you read this. Deuteronomy 6:10. Deuteronomy 6:10. And it shall be, Now they're getting ready to cross the Jordan, Israel is, into their promised land. And so this is what God said to them. Okay, he said, when the Lord thy God shall have brought you into the land which he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and to Jacob, to give you great and goodly cities, which thou built not. You didn't do a thing. You're going to go in there and rout the people out and use their cities. It says this. And the houses shall be full of good things, which you filled not, and wells dug, which you dug not, vineyards and olive trees, which you planted not, when you shall have eaten and be full. Pretty neat. We bought a wheat field, and we had to bring in the water, the power, and planted trees and all that stuff. But they didn't. They just moved in. In World War II, that's what we did. We took over a German city, and we took what we wanted. And I had a friend tell me they would say, if they needed a building, they would say, get out now. Get your stuff. You got 5 minutes. And then we took the building and place for storage or people to sleep. That's the fruits of war. Deuteronomy 6:12. Then beware lest you forget the Lord, which brought you forth out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage. Thou shalt fear the Lord thy God and serve him, and you shall swear by his name. You shall not go after other gods, small g, and of the gods of the people which are round about you. See, that we've had that happen here. People come in, oh no, I don't want to do that. It's too much for me, and they go off. Deuteronomy 6:15, for the Lord thy God is jealous among you, lest the anger of the Lord thy God be kindled against you and destroy you from off the face of the earth. He's talking about the last judgment. You'll be gone forever. And you shall not tempt the Lord your God as you tempted him in Massah. And that's when Moses struck the rock, and they were all ready to hang Moses. That's my words. But they were sick of not having water. And he struck the rock and outpoured water. And there's a rock out there. I've seen pictures of it. It's a big rock, big as this stage. But it has divots in it, like someone just, clay, pulled a divot out. And that's where tradition has it that Moses struck the rock. It's the only rock around like that. And I tend to go with that. Deuteronomy 6:17. You shall diligently keep the commandments of the Lord your God. And he's talking to us too, your God. And here's where it gets a little hard. You shall keep his testimonies. Okay. Statutes. There's a bunch of them. Which he hath commanded you. Okay? So that sets the stage, what I'm going to talk about. And let's start with, go to me with Judges 16:28. And this is a prayer that Samson, the story of Samson, and I found a few briefs, and let me read this to you. The story of Samson is found in the book of Judges, chapter 13 to 16. Samson, a Nazarite, gifted with incredible strength. He had strength. Led the Israelites for 20 years. He was a judge. He would pass judgment. People would go to him, as we do now, get a court and file papers and get a judgment. And he was a judge. And I can't remember who it was, a lady who would spread her blanket down and judge people. And it's in the Bible, and I'll think of it later. However, he broke vows. He didn't mind his parents, to say the least. He married outside of his people, and he acted more like a vigilante than a leader. His downfall came when Delilah betrayed him, and it has to do with never cutting his hair. And she found out, and she cut his hair, and he lost all his strength. And she turned him over to the Philistines, and he had no defenses, and leading to his capture and blindness and eventual death. Well, they blinded him, and what's a weak man who can't see? You're helpless. You're not going anywhere. And eventually, when he knocked down the pillars of the building where he was held, killing himself and the Philistines. So I want to read his prayer, and that's in 16:28. Judges 16:28. Excellent. And Samson called unto the Lord and said, O Lord, remember me, I pray you, and strengthen me, I pray you. Only this once, O Lord God, that I may be at once avenged the Philistines for my 2 eyes. And then Judges 16:29. And Samson took hold of the 2 middle pillars upon which the house stood, and on which he bore it up, and the one with his right hand and the other with his left. So they had him chained up there, and Samson said, Let me die with the Philistines. And he bowed himself with all his might. And the house fell upon the lords, and upon all the people that were therein. So the dead which he slew at his death was more than which he slew in his entire life. And then the next one is about his father, and people coming down and buried him in Zorah. Okay, so that's one. Did he follow instructions, God's instructions? No. Did he do what he wanted to do? Yeah. He was girl crazy, women crazy, and that's normal. But some things I still like. My son gave me a picture of a sailboat, and I'm going to hang it up in my shop. It's a beauty. If you're out, I'll show it to you. It's this big. It's a real pretty picture. So let's go to David and Bathsheba. 2 Samuel 11:1. This is my second example. 2 Samuel 11:1. And it came to pass after the year had expired, at the time when kings go forth to battle. Now, I've read over this a bunch of times, but he had a responsibility as a king. That was to lead his people into battle, his soldiers. in his lead people. So, that David sent Joab. So, Joab was like a general. See? He sent him. Capable. And his servants with him. And all Israel. And they destroyed the children of Ammon and besieged Ribbath. But David tarried still at Jerusalem. So he went there and caught sleep and probably ate good. Okay. And it came to pass in the evening tide that David arose off his bed and walked upon the roof of the king's house. And from the roof he saw a woman washing herself. So, now, where I live, there's a lot of new homes. And a lot of them have the master bedroom is upstairs. And the master bedroom will have a little porch out. So you can get up in the morning and have coffee and watch the sun come up. If your house is the other way, watch the sun come down. It's a real pleasure. And that's what he was doing. And the woman was very beautiful to look upon. She was gorgeous. And a man looking upon her, And what did he do? Let's read upon it, the rest of it. 11:3, 2 Samuel. And David sent and inquired after the woman. And one said, Is this not Bathsheba, the daughter of Elam, the wife of Uriah, the Hittite? And David sent messengers and took her. Now he was the king. His word was life and death in many cases. Remember where he laid people out, the conquered, and every third one he killed. He was the king. So, and she came unto him and he lay with her. Common sense just went out the window with David. For she was purified from her uncleanliness, and she returned unto her house. And 11:5. And the woman conceived and sent and told David, and said, I am with child. And I wrote this down. For David's life, as he was living, the king, and had it made, and God knew who he was. It went all the way when he did that. Common sense, he should have looked. Wow, she's beautiful. Turn around and gone back in. But that didn't happen. So he had her husband killed. And go with me. I wrote this morning. 2 Samuel 11:25. Can you get that, Kyle? 2 Samuel 11:25. He says something like this. For the swords devour one as well as another. So when he got the report back that Bathsheba's husband was killed, that's what he said. It was kind of snippy. He's kind of covering up, Well, it kills one as well as it kills the other. Terrible. When I was in the Army, we would say, well, if your bullet's got your name on it, you've had it, which is children's thinking. But that's what David did. So, David was chased. David was persecuted. The child died. And his life was just a mess. And why? Because common sense, making a decision, went out the window. Okay, one of my favorite, and I did a whole sermon on this, is Jonah. Let's start in Jonah 1:1. If you can, please. Jonah 1:1. Now the word of the Lord came unto Jonah, the son of this Mittite, saying, Arise and go to Nineveh, that great city, and cry against it, for their wickedness is come up before me. And they were bad. I believe it was Berkeley and another university in New York went over there and took pictures and of statues and things, and they were bad people. But Jonah rose up to flee unto Tarshish from the passage of the Lord, and went down to Joppa. And he found a ship going to Tarshish, and that's over there in the southern part of the Caribbean, Mediterranean part of France. So the weather was good, so he paid the fare thereof, and went down into it, to go with them into Tarshish, from the presence of the Lord. Get that? From the presence of the Lord, like you can escape. But the Lord sent out a great wind unto the sea, and there was a mighty tempest in the sea, though the ship was likened to be. Okay, let's go to 1:17, Jonah. Now, the Lord had prepared a great fish to swallow up Jonah. Now, I want you to notice, I used to love to fish in the ocean. And it's not a shark. It's not a big grouper. It's not a whale. But it was special. And why? And Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. Boy, you talk about a mess. I bet when he was vomited up on the shore, he stunk, let's say. Jonah prayed from the fish, and the Lord answered. Now, what do you learn from this? You can't run from your decision. You can't escape. God knows all. It's just amazing how he keeps track of everyone. I'll never know. I may find out someday, but you cannot escape your sin. And you don't have to sin if you use common sense. Now I have one more. Matthew 26:33. And this is about Peter. Now they're taking the Passover. And Peter, after the Passover, Peter answered and said unto him, 26:33, Matthew, though all men shall be offended because of you, yet will I never be offended. And Jesus said unto him, verily I say unto you, that this night before the cock crows, you shall deny me 3 times. And Peter said unto him, though I should die with you, yet will I not deny you. And here's interesting. Likewise also said all the disciples. So everyone said, oh, not me. I'm with you. Yeah, right. It's a hard thing to be a Christian. It's a hard thing. Now, let's go to Matthew 26:69. 26:69, Matthew. Now Peter sat without the palace. Now Christ had been judged, or was being judged, and here was Peter, yes, with the outside of the palace. And a damsel came unto him, some young girl came unto him, saying, You also was with Jesus of Galilee. In 26:70. But he denied before them all, saying, I know not what you say. I'm not. And when he had gone out into the porch, yet another maid saw him and said unto them that were there. So she spoke up. This fellow was also with Jesus of Nazareth. What did Peter do? And again he denied with an oath. He swore, I do not know this man. And 26:73. And after a while came unto him, and they that stood by, and said to Peter, Surely you also are one of them, for your speech betrays you. It's just like I hear someone on the phone from the South, and I know they're from the South. They have an accent. I can get anywhere I can identify when I have to have my computer fix someone in the Philippines. They have a rhythm, a beat. And it's the same thing here. Same thing. And he began to curse and swear, saying, I know not the man. And immediately the cock crowed. And Peter remembered the word of Jesus, which said unto him, Before the cock crows, thou shalt deny me 3 times. And he went out and wept bitterly. Bitterly. Peter learned the hard way. It's tough sometimes standing up for what we believe here. And for sure, God does not call the mighty. I read you 4 examples where common sense was just gone in their decision. Pressure, wanting to get away with something. But whatever reason, common sense was not used. Now, what does the Bible say about common sense? Let's go to James 3:13. James 3:13. Who is a wise man and endure with knowledge among you? How many people here have their doctorate? What was wise? You have a big business? Nah. God doesn't call that kind of people. We're the base ones. But you don't have to stay that way. You use what you have. It's commanded of us. Let him show out of a good conversation his works with meekness and wisdom. Godly wisdom. We do that here. That's why we have Bible studies, and I'm up here. But if you have bitter envy and strife in your hearts, glory not. You got something against us? Yeah, it won't work. And lie not against the truth. I just read scriptures to you today. Simple, but I lined them up for people that made bad decisions. This wisdom descends not from above, but from earthly, sensual devilishness. from Satan. It's just what we have to put up with and overcome. For every envying and strife there is confusion and every evil work. And that's what we've had. I've been called names, and other people have here too. Now, the true way. I went through all this. Now, the true. James 3:17. But the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, and easy to be entreated. Now let's stop there. If it's pure and peaceable and gentle, what does that mean? It's easy to teach. It wasn't easy for me to put this together, but I did it. And you have your life. You have to make decisions. And you can teach. To digest, that's what that means he's talking about. To take it in. Take it in and take it home with you. And to use. I'm asking you to use common sense, but not the kind of the world. Not what we think of, but what the Bible tells us to do. Full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. What does that mean? It's pretending to have a good character, moral values, and religious beliefs. Without that, without pretending, but live the life you've chosen here. In James 3:18, and the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace of them that make peace. And after doing this, it seems like there is a price to pay when you go against God. It's just a price you pay. And through repentance and talking to God and asking forgiveness. But there's sometimes that you're just going to have to pay the price. So use common sense. I enjoyed this one.